Hey, I'm Mike Myers, and this is the Songwriting for Guitar podcast, which is geared to support songwriters and producers to gain confidence and turn pro. I bring on industry experts to help you improve and monetize your skills, engage better in the writing process, and build healthy habits to create a sustainable career that you love. Caffeinated, inspirational, conversational. Hey, what's up, friends? Mike Myers here with the Songwriting for Guitar podcast, episode 119, The Missing Skill Holding Back Your Songwriting. This entire episode is devoted to active listening. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about why it matters and how you can start utilizing it for your writing. This is the most underutilized and the most overlooked skill that songwriters need, that songwriters are avoiding. And when I say active listening, there's some baggage that comes with it. And so I want to say on the front end what active listening isn't. Active listening isn't surface level. And what I mean by that, when we hear a song, we sometimes say phrases like, "Oh, that's cool," or "Oh, that's catchy. I like it. Oh, that was neat." They're very general phrases, but it doesn't give us the detail of what we find interesting or what we find catchy or what we find engaging. It's just kind of this general thing that we say on the front end, like, "Oh, that's cool." And then we move on to the next thing. That's not active listening. And that is not going to help us develop better songs. That's not going to help us refine the process to get a product that we're excited about that has momentum. And that momentum that could be, you want to start writing with a particular artist. You want to start gearing your music towards TV and film. Or you just want to write better songs for yourself in the vein of things that you've been enjoying. So active listening is essentially a catalyst that helps you develop those things quicker and allows your train of focus to be very specific. So if we're doing this surface level listening, we're never going to get there. And that's why some songwriters think they're doing it and just assume it's not really benefiting their songwriting, but they're never going deeper to this higher level. And when I say higher level, we're trying to aim for something that is very, super solid. And we've spent time understanding the details, the intricacies, so that we could use that for our song. Think of in art Michelangelo's David, which is this gorgeous statue. And if you Google it right now and just Michelangelo's David, your mind is going to be like, how did he do that from a block of marble? Yes, it's just, you have to take inspiration. It all starts with, probably chiseling away at the start. But if you look at the muscle structure, everything is so uniquely specific and works so well together, it leaves you in awe. What we want to do is we want to have those moments when we see a song that leaves us in awe and leaves us going I want to listen to it again. That's where we have to start diving in and doing active listening. Now, again, avoiding the surface level stuff. We're trying to not only utilize this information for our own benefit, but we're trying to build up our own unique skill. And I'll give you an example. Let's say I am a top liner. I'm someone that wants to truly understand great melody. If I come across a song and I listen to it and I go, "Oh, that's pretty cool. That's neat. I want to dive deeper than surface level." So that means I'm going to focus in on a very specific area of the song. Let's say the verse or chorus. And I'm going to melodically look for how many notes are they using within the melody. What's the repetition? Meaning, are there certain notes and rhythmic patterns that they're utilizing for phrases, especially key phrases of the song, especially when we get to the chorus? If I can start to do that, I can look for, do we have octave jumps? Are we doing certain lines like the threes, like we're cutting up a word and we're playing with it? If I can do that in my melody and go section by section within a song, and I can grab my instrument, whether it's piano, guitar, play those notes and like physically look at the fretboard or the keys on the piano and see like, holy crap, this song is just 3 to 4 notes, but they're playing with it. We're jumping octaves. In the verses, we're only using these set of notes, but when we get to the chorus, that's where it expands. And if I can start to understand more details within the melody, rhythm patterns, all of that, that is essentially going to help my melodies for not only just one song, but a whole bunch of songs going forward, that I'm going to utilize that. I'm going to essentially use that structure and that framework to help my future songs get better. Now, I was talking about the David, Michelangelo's David. So originally when Michelangelo had just that block of marble, this is a crazy story too. And it gets a little like, ew, but it's, when I heard this, my mind was blown. He wanted to truly create the best piece possible. And so he wanted to understand human anatomy. And during this time, it was really difficult. The only way he felt he could is if he could see within the muscle structures all of our, every bit and piece of the human body and anatomy. But he needed to look at bodies. And he was just like, well, where can I go? I can't go. And also, too, this was a crime. Well, it's still a crime now, thank goodness. But even more so, it was punishable by death during his time if it was caught, facing a corpse. And so he was like, where do I go? And so he found this hospital, which was essentially for sick people that were, destitute, homeless. And it was just that, anybody could get a bed. And he would go to their morgue. He knew during a certain time where he was able to work his way in there. And he went through corpses where he studied diligently their structures. I know it's disgusting, but part of it is like, whoa, the commitment to understanding the anatomy of the hands, the veins, the muscle structure, the bones, the ligaments, everything, before he started even chiseling away. He was sketching. He was really looking at that. And I feel this is a way for songwriters, in a totally non-disgusting way, that we can look and truly ask ourselves, have we studied the anatomy of the song? Like, we understand some basic song structure. We understand what a verse, a chorus is, a bridge, a turnaround. But have we taken time to truly understand those that are doing it at a high level? If I want to understand licensing, am I looking at things at TuneFind and creating a playlist of songs that I want to write like, and take one of those songs and literally go measure by measure and just start looking first at the melody? And as I said, mapping it out on my instrument, singing along and looking at the lyrics and go like, oh, wow, they are playing with words. They're cutting up a phrase, as opposed to me in a lot of my songs where I might just be singing the phrase or singing a particular word. They're chopping it up. They're playing around with it. That's what's making it hooky. So no longer is it a surface level, oh, this is kind of cool. It's catchy, but I can tell you why it's catchy and why it's really resonating with me. Oh, I gravitate towards songs where the key word or phrase is chopped up into twos, threes, and they play with it. They have a phrase and then they play with that three at the end of it. And it ends up becoming like a super catchy hook to make the chorus more noticeable and stand out. I'm able to identify it now as opposed to just this general, oh, I think it's kind of cool. From a lyrical standpoint, if I want to create more lyrics that resonate with an artist that might be someone like Benson Boone or Lizzie McAlpine, Gracie M, whatever it is, I need to spend time looking at their lyrics, the perspectives that they're writing, the details and the arrangements of those verses and those choruses. So I'm drawing on from, oh, that's interesting how they're writing, the perspective and how they're setting up the chorus, how they're setting up the sections. I'm looking at lines, 2 or 3 before we hit the pre-chorus. I'm looking at that. So if I'm a lyricist, I'm truly trying to understand that. Because if you're writing for a younger artist, they're probably gravitating towards that. we gravitate towards what we love. So when we're doing this form of songwriting, this is where active listening can be super helpful because it'll help us not necessarily go to our default all the time. But when we're consuming and examining new songs and new things and things that we're trying to aim for and monetize, this is essentially just a huge help. From a production standpoint, I really encourage my production clients to dive into active listening because when we examine our chord structure, we go like, oh, it's not that crazy. It's not that bad. They're very basic chords. Yes, and what about them? Oh, well, it is G, but the way they're doing it isn't the way that you would naturally do it. How are they doing it? Well, they're actually they're layering this guitar, and I think it's just hitting this root, and I think they're doing a higher third, but then they're also layering it with this piano, and it sounds like, oh, so there's some layers to it that's adding to the richness and making the simple sound a little bit more complex, a little bit more engaging. And how does that make you feel? Well, the sounds are actually a little bit more chill. It feels atmospheric. Oh, do you think that helps elevate the melody and the lyrics? Well, yeah, because and suddenly now what we were going to write off as simple and very easy on the front end, we've understood that yes, it is a simple chord structure, but the layers behind it, there was a reason. And it was supporting to the melodic and lyrical content of the song, cohesively making us feel something. This, my friends, this is huge. And I don't see enough doing this. And again, they are doing the surface level listening. And every time I sit down with somebody and we spend the first 15 or 20 seconds of a song and we just dive into that, there's so much information. I can see their eyes light up of like, oh, okay. Wow, I didn't realize that. It's like, oh shit, I can't believe that. And what's beautiful is the more reps you put into active listening, your ear gets so much sharper and it looks for the things that make a difference. And what I mean by that is if I'm a top liner, I immediately gravitate to the melodic content. I'm not worried about all the bells and whistles in terms of the production. My eyes are focused on that. I can get there so much quicker when I get those reps in. But if active listening is not part of my everyday process, it takes me a while to get there. So the sooner I see songwriters implement this, their ear noticeably gets better. And their ear noticeably gets better for their co-writers too. Because you're also more in tune to listen to what your co-writers are saying. Like they may say like, oh, I'm looking for XYZ, but you dive deeper into what they're asking for, the reasons behind it. You ask a few more questions because surface level only gets you so much. But the further you dive deeper, that's where you get to the authentic stuff. That's where you get to the things that resonate deeply. And regardless of what you want to feel, it could, resonate deeply and makes you feel amazing. It could resonate deeply and it makes you feel broken and awful. It could resonate deeply and make you feel pissed off. Regardless of the feeling, you're just able to get to something that's more. So I find when we really carve out, similar to David carving out Michelangelo, that detail, when we do that with our listening ear, it flows into every other area of our writing so that our co-writes get better. We're much more detail oriented in terms of the opportunities we look for. So active listening to me just has this ripple effect. And those that don't, you're going to see that most of their writes are pretty surface level. Most of their opportunities are surface level. They're never diving deeper other than surface level, thinking this is what's going to get it. And the product that they get is pretty good. But this is where I always go back to the statistic of, okay, in every day, 60 to 100K amount of songs are released on Spotify and digital platforms. So, almost, 700K monthly or weekly. and almost like, you know, 3 million monthly. So if we have a sea of not bad, how do we get past that? How do we get past to those things that resonate with a listener on a couple different levels? Not just lyrically, but melodically, they're hooked. Production wise, they're like, ooh, they're drawn in, and the story and the lyrics resonate with them in some capacity. How do you get all three of those things to do that? Well, each one of the players and the creators of that song have to do that due diligence of going deeper than surface level. So if you are someone right now who is wondering, like, well, I get it, Mike. Like, I understand, but like, it sounds like it's a little bit of work. Yeah, it is. But you have to have a little bit of, you have to have some skin in the game. You have to work at it if you want a high level result. When did anybody with low effort get high level results? It's an extreme, but Michelangelo was willing to risk the possibility of getting caught and killed just so he could understand the anatomy of structure so he could create a better product. And look what happened. Once David was out, people were amazed, and that's where his work just increased. The quality too. People were hiring it. They were just amazed. And to me, when we're giving that careful thought to our role as a songwriter, and we say we want to write the best songs for TV and film, I want to write, the best country pop songs. Okay. Are you going to Spotify's top country 100 weekly and picking out at least 5 or 6 and studying them? I mean, intricately, even if you are, let's say you're the guitarist. Okay. Are you looking at the chord structures? Are you looking for patterns too? That's something we could talk about, because every time that I take in more songs, not only is your ear going to get sharper, your listening ear, but you're going to see patterns. You're going to be like, oh, so-and-so is doing this. So-and-so. You're going to be like, uh-oh, this is a trait of it. You're going to notice, so that when you're in that co-write and somebody says, oh, I love this song and this song is really good. Maybe they can't identify it, but you go, oh, you mean this? And they're like, oh, how'd you know? Because you took the time to examine, identify. And now suddenly your value in that right becomes greater. When that person talks about you with someone, they're like, oh, I just wrote with so-and-so, and they're like really good. They were able to nail it each time. Because if you don't do active listening right now, so let's go with, okay, you do basically the opposite of what I've been talking about for the past 20 minutes. You don't do any of that. Does that mean you can't be successful in music? No, it doesn't. It's already difficult, but it becomes even harder. And then everything becomes hit or miss. You get something good and you're not sure why. They say, oh, this was really catchy. Let's say you get feedback and they say that was pretty memorable and catchy. And you're like, that's amazing. How did I do that? You're not sure why. So basically there's no frameworks, there's no structures, there's no identifying why. And you just kind of sit there and you're like, cool. And you write another song, you submit, and you think you knock it out of the park, and they're like, nope. Yeah, oh. You do another one. Nope. You do another one. That was better. That was catchy. And you're like, great. I have no idea what. You just don't know. It's so hit or miss. So why wouldn't you take this thing right now and examine what's working? Examine the structures, examine the production, examine the melodic structures, the lyrical structures. Look for patterns that repeat, similarities. Look for certain keys, for certain chord structures. Look for all of that. And what if at the end of the day, that's essentially fills up your toolbox with so many ideas that when you go into a write, you're on fire and you're known as the person that is like, they've got their shit together. Like they're so good and they're able to dial in so many things. Do you think that would give you an advantage? Do you think that would give you a superpower? Do you think you would be more intentional when you sit down to write with yourself or with a co-writer? Could it potentially move you further along than you currently are right now? Yes. The answer is yes. Yes, 1,000,000 times. So what I want you to do, and this is where it's my challenge to you, because it's all well and good to listen to this and be like, yeah, okay, Mike, I'm sold. I'm going to do it. Then you have to do it. It has to become part of a routine, a habit. And habits take about usually a week or two to fully build. Usually it's about 2 weeks where you're intentional and you're starting to add into your routine. So what I like to say to someone is, okay, I want you to identify where you would love to be successful. Do you want to have a cut with a country artist? Do you want to have success in music licensing? Do you just want to release your own music well? That's fine. What genre and style are you? Now, obviously, if you're country pop, are you more of like Jelly Roll country? Are you like Morgan Wallen? Are you more like Post Malone? Or are we going more of like a George? Where are we aiming? Because that's one thing too. We need to get even more specific on the genres, the styles that we're doing. Can you find me a couple? Okay. If you're doing TV and film, have you spent some time going to TuneFind and looking at shows and asking yourself, okay, you know what? I am kind of like the Danger Twins. You know what? I am like early Ingrid Michaelson. You know what? I am very much like this particular artist. And then what you need to do is grab at least 3 to 4 songs and put them in a dedicated playlist. This is your listening playlist. And the first step is now just starting to listen and move past the awe factor. And the awe factor is it's really good. Because when we listen to something for the first time and we think it's really catchy, we go like, yeah, we're so impressed by it. It's that awe and wonder of like, oh, that's amazing. But okay, listen to it again. Listen to it again. By the 5th, 6th, 7th time, you start to go like, okay. All right, now I'm ready to dive in deeper. I've moved past that's really cool. But now I want to go to the first 15 and 20 seconds of the song and dive in. And whatever area you're trying to focus on, whether it be chords, melody, lyrics, you listen to those 15 or 20 seconds of it on loop for a while. Like, it's totally common for me to listen to that maybe 10, 15 times and really just examine how that song starts. Because there's something in that 10 or 15 seconds that's pulling me in, because I was like, that's really good. I decided in those 10 or 15 seconds to commit and listen to it. And I need to identify that. And then I do the same thing. I move on to the next section, the next section. I don't try to listen to the whole and examine and dissect the whole thing at once, but I take it in sections and piece it together. I write it down. I take notes. I play through it. I sing along to the melody. I look at the lyrical I pull up the lyrics. I look at them. I do a huge deep dive examination, just like Michelangelo did, to all those corpses. So essentially all these song corpses we're looking at, we're trying to examine them and understand that structure. Because if we do that for 2 weeks solid, the quality of what we'll start to create will instantly get better. But you have to commit to at least 2 weeks. And if you want that high level result, 2 weeks is a bare minimum. Because here we are in my personal career, and I can tell you, active listening has remained a consistent role. Never once has it just gone away. It has always, 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 always been front and center in my journey. For every next level, there's a new level of listening. So we have to keep on going. So this week, I feel like I've made this case for why active listening matters. And I hope at the end of this podcast, feel free to send me a note, that you've committed to the idea of doing this. Because I can tell you, everyone that's doing it at a high level talks about active listening and the importance of it. So my friend, commit to the process, commit to active listening, and believe me, the quality of what you're going to get. And this comes from experience and seeing others implement it. It drastically changes, and you get way more excited and you get onto the path of wherever you want to go. All right, friends, that does it for this week's episode. I'm Mike Myers. Thanks for listening.